Hello, hello, everyone. I see you trickling in. Welcome. We are so excited that you are here. And I just want to do a few basic checks. If you can type in the chat for me, if you can hear me. If it sounds clear, you might hear some music in the background, but can you hear me? Kate says yes.
Yay.
Hi, Nicole. Welcome. See Beth and Linda. Awesome. Keisha. Angela can hear me all the way in Texas, which is amazing. Patty, hi. Hi, Debbie and Judy and Karen. Oh, it just says Zoom user, but I'm going to say hi anyway. Lisa, Shannon from Colorado. Amazing. We're just going to give everyone another minute or two to join, and then we will get started. If you guys would like to type in the chat where you are, like where you're connecting in from. This was really amazing. We had 103 people sign up to join us tonight, and we have 6 different countries that are represented on this call, which is amazing. We have Virginia, Maine, North Carolina, Florida, Ohio, Idaho. I can't read. Idaho, Chicago, Texas, y'all. I love it. My Arkansas heart loves that. Wisconsin, Tampa, Alberta, Minnesota, Nebraska, Colorado. Awesome.
There's Ohio.
There's Ohio. Yes, I lived in Ohio for a few years.
Me too, baby.
Awesome. Okay, well, it is by my clock anyway, 7:03 Central Time. Oh, hi, Natalie from Tennessee. Good to see you. Awesome. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started because we have a very full, vibrant agenda for you. And if this is your first time at the Widow Winter Solstice, let me just say you are in for such a treat. This is our 3rd year hosting this type of event. It's the most talked about live event that I have the honor of hosting and facilitating each year. We grow each year. And for some of you, I know this is how you found me last year, and you're still with me, which is amazing. I'm so glad to have you here. So, we're just going to go through a few basic housekeeping items. We have our panelists that are here and they are ready. We're going to introduce each one of them here shortly. And we like to keep the events flowing around here at Brave Widow so that you stay engaged, so that you learn, you are empowered, you are equipped, and you are refreshed. So, how our agenda this evening is going to go is we're just going to keep mixing things up. So, we're going to have time where the panelists will introduce themselves. We have gifts we're going to give away, which I know you guys are super excited about that. We have a topic that our panelists are going to tackle. The first one will be loneliness. We're going to talk about love after loss. We're going to talk about any questions that you guys put in the Q&A box for us. So, just a few housekeeping items for you, and then I will kick us off with a prayer. So, as you are in the Zoom world, some of you may be familiar with Zoom and some of you not. But on somewhere on your Zoom screen, maybe on the bottom, you have a chat button or an area where you can type in the chat. And let me tell you, the chat feeds the energy. So we want to know if you want to put an emoji in there, if you want to say, hey, I'm so excited to be here, or wow, I didn't really understand that. I'd like to learn more. Any feedback that you want to give, anything that resonates with you, anything that someone else comments that you want to reply to, like the chat is where the audience energy is. And since we can't see you and we're looking for feedback from you, that's really how we are able to get that. Now you also have on your Zoom screen a Q&A box at the bottom, somewhere near where your chat is, okay? And if you have a question for me or for one of our panelists, or if there's something that you wish we would talk about more or explain more, put your question or your topic in the Q&A box. What the Q&A box allows us to do is to keep track of all your questions. So while the chat is like people are commenting and we got emojis going and people are really engaged in the chat, it's easy to lose questions in there. So the way we keep track of those questions is in the Q&A box. So use the Q&A box for questions, and that way we can make sure that we answer those questions for you. All right, I am going to kick us off with a prayer. We have many faith-based widows that are part of this panel group, part of Brave Widow. If you are not a faith-based person, I just invite you to have a moment of silence or to reflect in a way that's meaningful to you. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to be here today and for the technology and for the volunteers and for the generous people that are part of this widow community. We pray tonight that you are close to each of the people's hearts that are on this call, that every widow and every friend of a widow can know that you see them, that you hear them, and that you have a future for them that is more beautiful and more abundant than they could ever imagine, or maybe they even think is possible at this point. We know that widows often feel so lonely and isolated and forgotten, but widows are so special and dear to you, and you teach us that in your word. I pray for each of these panelists that you give them the words to say, that you give them the courage to share vulnerably and authentically, and in a way that other people can resonate with, that helps them to know they're not the only person who's been in that situation, and that they can be brave enough to say the same words and to share their stories with other people to help encourage and inspire them too. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So, just a few things you may want to have nearby with you tonight. So, we are going to have a moment of reflection where we honor the relationship that we had with our person. And I'm all about like the ambience of the room, the vibes. And so I love having a candle that's lit or something like that just to kind of set the mood and the tone in the room. So if you would like to have that, I invite you to have that nearby. We're also going to have some reflection questions. And so for those of you that are comfortable, we'd be happy for you to put your answers and responses in the chat. If you are a pen and a paper person, like some of us old school people, then you may want a pen and a notebook nearby. You may have the Notes app on your computer or on your phone. And then you may also want your handy box of tissues. And here's the rules with crying is we don't apologize for crying around here at Brave Widow. We embrace this journey, the messiness, the rawness, the realness, the happiness, the things that feel opposite but true at the same time. Like we just embrace it all as part of the journey. So, you guys are in for a really great night. So, I want to share before we start introducing our panelists okay, first, why do we do a winter solstice event? And Emily, number two, why is it not on winter solstice this year? Well, those are some great questions. So, I lost my husband in 2021, and I remember that year in December that someone shared with me, and I can't remember who it was, or I'd give them credit, But they shared with me that their church did something for winter solstice for widows. And the concept was that the holidays are often lonely, it's often cold, the days are really dark. And winter solstice is the longest night of the year. Like the day is the shortest on the 21st of December, and the nights are so dreadfully long. And so the concept here was to bring widows together when the night was the longest and to tell them that I know right now your days are really dark, but every day going forward is going to be a little bit brighter and a little bit brighter. And one day your day is going to be full of mostly light and not darkness. And I absolutely love that concept. This year, winter solstice falls on the weekend before Christmas. And so I'd asked several of my widow folks and my volunteers and some of the folks in our community, their thoughts on having it on a weekend when most likely people might have other obligations, other commitments, time with extended family. And we mutually agreed that this night would be the best night to have it, but our reverence is towards a winter solstice, which isn't just in 2 days. 2021 was a mean year. Yes, it was a tough year for many. Okay, so we have several gifts that we're going to be giving away throughout the evening this evening. You do not have to be present to win. And because we have several people that may share the first name, I put your name and your email address in there if it wasn't really clear. For example, if we have a person named Sarah, we might have lots of Sarahs. So I tried to put your name and your email there, but we're going to draw for some books, for some merchandise, for some Amazon gift cards, for some support with Brave Widow, just all of the things. And we are going to do that shortly. So I want to introduce our first panelist here. And each of the panelists are going to have just a minute or two to share their part of their story and who they are and where you can connect with them or where you can reach out to them to learn more. If I don't want you to worry about having to write things down or having to try to memorize how to find some of these people. So I just want to reassure you that tomorrow you will get an email for everyone that registered. You'll get an email just recapping all of our panelists, where you can find them, and how you can connect with them. So, with that, I will turn it over to Tina.
Hello, and I just want to say I am proud of you for being here. This just making the decision to do something like this for yourself is difficult, and then to show up is another difficult part. We serve a community that is struggling to stand up for themselves, so I can relate to how difficult that is. My name is Tina Fornwald. There's a picture of my family. My husband and I met in the military. We were in the Army together. Even though Navy beat us this weekend, we're not going to talk about that. And we were together for 32 years. We traveled the world together and was happy. And we were at the point that we thought we were about to become empty nesters. Our son had just went into the military, and our daughter was looking to go in afterwards. But life had a different direction. While on vacation, my late husband Mark had a massive heart attack, and my life was shattered. And I have found that community, connecting with other widows and widowers and hearing their story, my mental health, and other things that were extremely helpful for me, been able to share those with other people under the umbrella of Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, which is a registered 501c3 that is developed to support the bereaved. And you'll find out more about me as we talk. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this conversation.
All right. Thank you, Tina. We are so glad that you're here. Next, I will turn it over to Susan.
Thanks so much, Emily. I'm so glad to be here also and to be able to share with everyone who's joined us today and meet you, even though we don't get to see you. Our hearts are with you, and we are part of connecting with you in ways that also helped us on our journeys when we were early on in our widowhood, just connecting up with other people and knowing someone else sort of understands a little bit of what you're going through. And it really makes a big difference. So I'm really glad to be able to share a little bit about who I am. And my story is I was married 34 years to my husband, and we were on the day of our son's wedding. And all of a sudden, he started having pains in his stomach about 2 hours before the wedding, right before we were supposed to leave to the venue. He ended up on the bathroom floor, hardly able to speak. We had to call an ambulance. It ended up being his pancreas burst, which we did not know at that moment, but he ended up being in the hospital for 4.5 months and never coming home. So it was a crazy story, and he died on Valentine's Day. So my the whole world was shattered. He wasn't sick. He didn't have a problem. And all of a sudden he was gone and not a part of my life. And he was my best friend. And we were also like Tina. We were planning on retiring together. We have 3 grandkids. We have 3 kids. They were all married. And, the last one was just married that time he got sick. And so we were hoping to travel and see them all since none of them lived right by us. And all of that changed also. So I started connecting with people online and summits and learning more about other people going through grief and new ways to go forward. And someone asked me, what dreams do I have? So I created a, a dream to marry my heart because I felt like my heart was shattered. And the only way I could go forward is if I could trust and love myself 100% and then go forward from there. And it led me to be able to write a story because I married my heart and I created a heart honeymoon and started sharing it with people. And then I realized people were sharing their stories back, and it was important to have that exchange. So that's when I had a chance to write a book in a year, and I wrote a book called The Miracle of Marrying My Heart, which I will be giving away tonight. And it led me to start meeting other people, other authors, and just making connections randomly all over the place. And that's really what's helped me get through my grief journey. So just take those steps forward in your life and see what can come next. There's always a beautiful chapter waiting ahead.
Very well said. Thank you, Susan. And next, I will turn it over to Rachel.
Hey ladies, Rachel Powell here. Um, I am in my late 30s and I met my first husband in high school. And through missions after between high school and college, we were going to the same college. We were married young at 19, and we were married 11 and a half years to the day. He was an incredible man. We grew up together. I didn't know so much about life and even the finances and tech stuff he was a guru of and took over, and I was really at a huge loss in so many ways, as you all know, when he passed away in the last year of his life. My husband became somebody else, and there was a lot of mental health and spiritual warfare, I believe, things going on, and things became abusive in our marriage. It was an extremely crazy making and chaotic time. There was abuse in our marriage. There was abuse related to the church that kept telling me to submit and submit and submit until things got really out of control and I lost him by suicide in June of 2019. We had been, and I continued to raise my 2 nieces and my nephew along with my own biological daughter. So it was me and 4 kids and the COVID pandemic that we went right into. And so there's been a lot of suffering and a lot of challenge. I also became so hopeless. I struggled with suicide. Some of my kids did, and I actually ended up attempting twice myself just from being so hopeless. And so, about 5.5 years out now, and a vision the Lord gave me of helping other people who were struggling in their own places of hopelessness led me to begin Hope Speaker. And so my goal is to reach people who are struggling, whether they come to a point that's suicidal or they're just really suffering, and to give people hope to hang in there and hold on, that it's not always going to be the way that it is right now, and that their story isn't over yet. And so my heart is really huge for widows, of course, and for people who know abuse in their marriages or in the church, and also people who have struggled with suicide or lost someone that way. Those are kind of some of my realms, hope and empowerment, and I'm grateful to be here with you, ladies.
Thank you, Rachel. And I already saw a couple of folks had shared about also losing their spouse to suicide. And I know that that's not something that is really talked about very openly in a lot of arenas. So I'm really glad that you're here and so open about sharing your story. Okay, Amy, I will now turn it over to you.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for joining tonight. I love this concept of meeting on a dark night and that it's going to get brighter and brighter. Um, so in 2018, my husband came home early from work, always super healthy, and he went to bed. It was the first time in 21 years that he had ever taken a day off of work, or a sick day. And after 3 hours of napping, I thought I better check on him. And when I did, he couldn't speak clearly. He was saying weird words. He was really frustrated. He had a really bad headache. And I called the squad and took him in. And they very quickly pulled me aside and said, "Your husband has a mass in his brain." And very shortly after that, he had an emergency brain surgery, and they came back to us with the news that he had the most aggressive possible brain cancer. And if we did nothing, he would have 3 to 4 months. And if we did treatment, he might have 6 to 12 months. My husband and I had served as missionaries overseas, and then we had children. We lost some children along the way. And then we began adopting. So we actually adopted 6 children with special needs from around the world. So we had 10 total children. And then my husband gets this terminal diagnosis, and we're just like, what? Totally, totally blindsided us. That was never our intention to have me raise all of these children by myself. Um, so he actually lived 37 months, and we made a real distinct decision at the front end of that okay, if we only have a year, we're going to make this the best year we've ever had. And we lived very intentionally. My husband left a very positive, meaningful legacy. And that's actually become my calling to kind of help other people through that period of time between diagnosis and death. And there's not a lot for anybody in there. I don't know that the church really knows how to come alongside other than to pray. And praying is important and healing is important. And I do believe that my husband was healed of his brain cancer. He had 16 months where he had zero treatment, he had zero issues. And all we did was go in for routine MRIs. And we had a great time. It was really fun. Um, but that dragon of the diagnosis was always in the back, always chasing us, and that's a hard place to live. And then, of course, becoming a widow and actually taking on what it is to not just deal with my grief, but the grief of my children, and then running a house. Like, nobody tells you these things. Like, you're supposed to change your furnace filters. What? Anyway, um, so yeah, I have been widowed now for 3.5 years. So
Thank you, Amy. And I know that it has to be an inspiration for people to think about your situation, but to also be able to look at you as you can smile and laugh and just have a light about you, that there is hope, even if it feels really overwhelming.
yeah.
Okay, Donna, I will allow you to introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody, and thank you so much to all who's just shared their very genuine stories. I love the empathy and the clarity that you are all sharing, and to everyone that's joining here, thank you. So my story starts a little bit longer back than everyone. I've been in widowhood since 2011. Or 13. My story starts where pretty much I gave up my career to follow my husband abroad. He worked for the U.S. government, came back stateside after many years, and 3 kids later to back to the Philadelphia area. Saw a few people from Pennsylvania there. Yay. But wind up that he did take his life also by suicide. And I was left with an 8-year-old, 11-year-old, and 12-year-old just moving to this area and learning how to speak English in school. So we were trying hard to make it all work. Took the next few years to really just figure out where we were and then kind of flip my career on its head so that I could actually support widows in their financial conversations and their roadmaps. With that came a whole lot of, I say, like a mission-based journey to make sure that we're bringing spirituality into everything that we do, providing lots of education for our widows, grief recovery, and supporting kids who have lost a parent or a caregiver. Recently got remarried 2 years ago, and so now we are a blended family of 6 kids from 14 to 24. And unfortunately, my stepkid's mom passed away last year. So we're now carrying 3 younger children up through grief. And I'm watching all the lessons that we shared as parents and a community with my kids trickle down to these kids. And really, it's an amazing experience. So I thank you, Emily, and everyone here for what we're doing to really help model how to care for one another, because it is community that carries us.
Mm. Yeah, it definitely is. And, Donna, I think too, you're such a great resource for the messiness of blended families and figuring each other out. And, you know, do I really want to live with another person again? And just all of those things. You really have a great story there. All right, so I'm Emily, and I'm so glad that each of you have decided to join us tonight. And I know I have several emails of folks that couldn't join tonight and really wanted to make sure they got to watch the replay. So for those of you that are going to watch the replay, hello, we're glad you're here too. Um, in 2021, July of 2021, I watched an ambulance take my husband and best friend of right at 20 years from our home, never to return again. I'd worked in healthcare for 20 years, and I told my kids, like, everything's going to be fine. Hospitals are where people go to get better. And we both had COVID that morphed into double pneumonia. And while he was in the hospital, I would be called one day to meet with the attending physician. And I really thought we were meeting just to talk about the next steps on this road to recovery. But unfortunately, there wouldn't be any. The physician, there would be no kindness, there would be no warmth, there would be no smiles. There would just be a physician that said, "We think your husband is brain dead." And a few hours later, I had to figure out how in the world I was going to tell my 4 teenagers that my husband had died. 3 weeks later, we had already invited family and friends to come to our house for a 20-year anniversary party. I literally had ordered the t-shirts. 20 years married to my best friend. It had our names on it. And so 3 weeks later, I did host family and friends at our house. But instead of what I expected to be facing as a wife and with joy and excitement, I faced that day crushed as a widow and a solo mom now to 4 teenagers. I wanted to die in those next few months that followed. My life honestly felt pointless. And there was a moment in my story where I recognized that even though I was still alive, I felt dead on the inside. And I didn't want my kids to have to effectively lose 2 parents. I didn't want to be checked out anymore. And so my stubborn self decided that I was going to learn anything and everything I possibly could about grief, about how to get through it, about how to help people because no one knew what to do. All the Facebook groups gave different advice. People gave conflicting advice of what to do. And I said, there has to be a roadmap to figure this thing out. Half the time I wondered if what I was feeling was normal or if I was going crazy or, what should be expected. And so I committed to doing that. I attended multiple courses and certifications and got coaching myself. And I'm happy to share that now I do love my life again. I've traveled to 4 new countries. I've done all sorts of amazing adventures, like real estate investing, standing up Brave Widow, where now I get to coach and lead an amazing online community of incredible widows that are changing their lives and building an amazing life for themselves. It's truly been one of the most rewarding things I've ever experienced. And so, my goal and my focus with Brave Widow is to first give people hope that even if you can't imagine how you could ever enjoy life again, that you could ever experience joy, that your life would ever be anywhere as good as it was before, is to give you the hope that it's possible and that you can find some way, somehow it is possible to get there. You just need that little seed of hope. And then to take you really beyond grief recovery. I view grief recovery and emotional healing as a foundation. And within the Brave Widow group, we focus on rebuilding. We rebuild who we are, what we want, the type of life we want, our social circle, our confidence, our purpose. We build on top of our emotional healing. And I've got several of my Brave Widow tribe here tonight. And thank you guys for coming and being a part of this. I love each and every one of you. Okay, so I am now going to draw for some giveaways. Are you guys excited? Do you want to draw for some giveaways? Okay, well, you're gonna love my very technical prize drawing tool. It is last time one of the guys teased me because it's a website called the Wheel of Names. It's very official. It's very, complex technology here. Okay. And you're just going to have to excuse me for this formatting. And, I did not make any typos. So if your name's mistyped, that's how you typed it in the form. I'm just going to say that. Okay. But we are going to draw for 7 gifts. And we're going to do this about 5 times throughout the night. So we have lots to give away. And as you receive, if you win something, then know that we'll be reaching out to you through email just to confirm what you received and make sure that we get that ordered and sent over to you so you have that available. So what I'm going to draw for first is Susan Peters. She has a 2-book bundle, so her 2 books that she wrote. We are going to draw. You don't have your books there with you, do you, Sue? Yeah, okay, hold them up to the camera. Yes, yes. So these are her 2 books. We're going to draw for that. And our winner is going to be, drum roll. Oh, who's it going to be? Dawn. Congratulations, Dawn. I'm not going to pronounce your last name. You're not going to be happy with it, I'm sure. Okay. All right, next we're going to give away a gift card to Rachel. Has a merchandise shop with Hope Speaker. And so we're going to give away a $50 gift card to Rachel's shop. And don't worry, Dawn, we're going to draw for some more of her books again. So maybe it'll be meant for you. Okay, Barbie. Barbie, you are the winner of the $50 gift card to Hope Speaker merch. Okay. Next, we're going to draw for Grief Recovery Handbook. This is one of my most recommended books ever of all time for grief recovery. And so we will draw for that. And you're welcome, Barbie. Okay, Judy Barnes. Judy, you get Grief Recovery Handbook. That's a great one. Okay, next, Donna Kendrick. She also has 2 books. Actually, do you have your books with you or I've got them here? There we go. We've got A Guide to Widow and A Guide to Blended Families. So we are going to give away 2 of those together, and our winner is going to be Monica. All right, Monica. All right, I got 3 more. Okay, so this next gift is to Brave Widow. So it is a quarterly membership package that I'm giving away. So if you already have a membership with Brave Widow, we can add on 3 months, or I can send you a Brave Widow Stanley Cup, or I can send you a Brave Widow hoodie. It is totally your choice. This is the Brave Widow grab bag special, whatever you want to call it. And that winner is going to be, oh, it's so close, Casey. Casey, whoop whoop. Okay, next we have a $50 Amazon gift card. Use it for yourself. Use it for family and friends. Use it for yourself. Okay, $50 Amazon gift card. Here we go. Diane. Diane, have I seen your name? Okay, this is a $25 Amazon card. And for $25 on Amazon, this is going to be Sinead. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Okay. All right. So we are going to have our panel in just a moment talk about loneliness and what loneliness has meant to them in this whole new normal and new version of life. But before we do that, I'm just going to ask you guys to type in the chat just to make sure you're with us and you're engaged and you're ready to go. I'm going to give us 2 minutes. I would love for you to share in the chat your person's name, 3 words that you would use to describe them, and anything else that you'd like to share about your journey. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Let's go. Okay, thank you guys for sharing that. I feel like I get to know you a little bit more, seeing about your person and what that has meant to you. So, loneliness in the new normal. And I told the panelists this is really all about them. So, whether they think about friendships, whether they think about family, whether they think about a pet or what losing their social circle, whatever that meant to them and what they wanted to communicate with you tonight. So, Sue, can I call on you first just to weigh in on loneliness?
Sure. For me, the loneliness really hit hard because our third son was the last one to get married when John got sick at the wedding, and so all of a sudden I was just thrust into being home alone. And when John got sick, it was during COVID, so when he was in the hospital for 2 whole months, they closed it off to visitors during the holidays. So I had to leave like 2 days before Thanksgiving and didn't get to see him again until middle of January. Wasn't even sure if I would. So when I first came home, all of a sudden I was hit. I felt so alone because it just was like the house was so quiet. No kids were here, no husband, and it really, really just like hit me hard. And it was a weird feeling because it wasn't like necessarily that I was lonely, but that feeling of being alone was really like weird. And it didn't matter. I could be in a room of 100 people and I still felt that alone feeling. And that's what was really weird to me is how I couldn't get past it. Because my parents had died and I had experienced other deaths, but when I lost my husband John, it was like a whole different level. And so to get through things for me, that loneliness, it's like I needed to like spend time with John, so I would put his picture on the table and I would eat meals with him. And it was for me the best way to process our grief, or my grief, I should say, not ours. And what I would do was sit there and I would put in a meal that he liked, a meal that I liked. When it was our anniversary, I had a little glass of wine. I don't usually do that, but I did. And it was just like something that I could talk to him. And I sat there and I talked about all the memories we shared. I talked about the ups and the downs of our life. I talked about what made me laugh and I laughed. I talked about what made me sad and I cried, because I know only he would understand it. And so it was really strange. If the neighbors saw me through the window, they would really be wondering. But at the same time, it really helped me to process that he was still available for me to talk to, and that even though I couldn't hear him back, I knew that he would understand. So that is the one way I was able to cope with my loneliness. And even though I like pretty much cried every day and every meal, I also had this feeling that like at least he was there and at least he understood. And so that's how I kind of got through things in a lot of different scenarios because I had to go. We had two weddings in our family that year, and I had to go by myself. And the first time I had to go to a restaurant by myself or stay in a hotel by myself, it was all those same feelings that I had to process. But I just kept thinking, okay, I know that he's with me. I know he knows what's going on. And so that helped me to get through those times that were the very hardest. And I still feel like he's with me and journeying in new ways and actually even leading me to new people, so that I won't be lonely anymore. Because I've met some new people, like I met Emily and I met all the people, that I'm with on Brave Widow. And it helps so much to have someone else that understands the loneliness part and just tr treats you like a normal person.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sue. Rachel, do you mind to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I was brainstorming a few things, the loneliness like Sue was talking about was so profound having your person that just knew you, the one from across the room where you could give each other a look and you knew what that meant. I remember driving back to my parents' house in another city and being like, there's no one who like knows this route anymore, like who knows the way, knows my parents, who knows my whole family history. Like, how will I ever have these things again? And just the depth of loss. I remember Hobby Lobby being like the worst place in the world because it's all of this that can be like, when you realize like all these ideas we have, this is my perfect puzzle piece. And then when you lose that of trying to figure out who you are again, there's just so many losses there. And understanding a little bit what the Bible talks about there not being marriage in heaven. When I remember now, I'm like, what are you talking about? How could it be without that? And yet, as I've walked this journey of losing Andre and even dating and remarriage again, having a whole different perspective of what that means because, um, we're still very much connected. I remember reading a book called Heaven by Randy Alcorn, and that being such a helpful book for me, especially when he was talking about some biblical passages about our loved ones still being able to see what is going on. And that was really, really important to me to be able to see in the Word that, like, we're not completely disconnected. So I like am a deep thinker and a deep feeler, and that all of these things like really I wanted to look them in the face and name them and write about them and process them. And I found that I'm not alone in that. I see Patty saying that as well. So, and like in worship, because that's what he is doing before the Lord as well. So there's still this connection that transcends this limited loss that I have, for which I was so grateful for because that disconnect was devastating to me. Um, and I think loneliness, another prominent thing that comes to my mind with loneliness is that it's such a vulnerable time. Um, and there's like this, it seems like they're opposite, but they're both true where we get this, or I shouldn't speak for you. For me, people treat you kind of like you're this dangerous cougar. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't even be, you're a widow and nobody's ever going to be left alone around you because you're going to jump on somebody. And like, being like, where did all of like the strong, healthy, men in the church go? Like afraid of you, and yet recognizing like what a vulnerable time that it is, and knowing my own failures and the struggles of other widows that I'm connected with, of recognizing also what an important time that is to be guarded in your own heart and in your grief. Um, and I'm not just talking about other relationships and things, but also the loneliness in our grief, um, that we don't grieve alone. We feel completely alone, but either the Lord walks with us in our grief or the enemy will walk with us in our grief, but we don't walk it alone. And we can really, that was a big thing, especially in my struggles with hopelessness and suicide and things, was like, I've got to hold on to the one who's walking with me because there's someone else in the shadows around here and I'm really not alone. Um, and his profound ability to come around and cuddle me and to be intimate with me, to cuddle me in my bed, the worst place at night alone, the cold, dark bed, like for him to hold me there. So, you know, um, yeah, and loneliness and the struggle with our grief, it takes a different shape, I think, through the seasons, but it still is, there's still a journey there. Because even in dating and remarriage, I found there's a different sense now with which I have to walk that, because I had the idea in my mind, and maybe people have had the experience where they find someone who like perfectly gets it and walks with them and is like, oh, he's so perfect and healing for me and all of these things. I had this idea in my mind that someone was going to come and get it and like honor it perfectly and like, what I needed and and you're going to not cater, but walk it perfectly. And then I realized, like, oh, there's this other imperfect human being here with his own struggles and ideas, and he can be there for me, but he can't fix it or make it all the way better. And there's still ways that we walk our grief out that feel lonely in remarriage because they just don't know our person or know the things perfectly or all the triggers. So there's still just this sense through the loneliness of the Lord walking through all of the vulnerabilities and all of the pain points with us, past widowhood and faithful through all of the seasons and beyond that. Mhm.
Thank you, Rachel. Donna?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here taking notes about loneliness. And for me, I resonate so much with what Susan says. I'm an outgoing person, and my late husband traveled a lot for work. So I felt like a solo parent for much of our marriage. But to be in those same rooms, those same social gatherings, but being a widow felt so lonely. even though I was surrounded by the same people. And so that really does show that sometimes that loneliness is how we perceive and how we absorb the energy around us. So did a whole lot of work with myself, with spirituality, with being able to be in the right frame of mind, entering into those situations so that I was putting good energy out there. And the one thing I want to share, because I'm so far along in this grief journey, is I always remember the first year I was just trying to be like the best widow I possibly could. I wanted people to be like, Donna's got it. The kids are doing great. If anyone asked my in-laws, right? But it wasn't true, right? I was just kind of going along with emotions and kind of burying it deep down. So for me, it was the second year that the loneliness really hit because this was that new normal. And I had to find ways to ask because I don't know if anyone else has experienced it, but there was a lot of meal trains and a lot of check-ins those first 3 months, and then it slowly dwindled off. Right. And so I had to find my people. I had to find places like Brave Widow. I had to find the grief recovery method. I had to find my tribe to be able to get that continued support so I didn't feel so lonely in the journey. And one big thing I learned that I just had to ask. So many people just don't know what to say. They just don't know how to help. But if you actually put out there and be like, hey guys, I'm just struggling, a friend will wind up on your doorstep. They will. So just remember, you're not in this journey alone. Loneliness, it hits. It does. Sometimes it can be therapeutic. I have 6 kids now. I like to be alone. But sometimes in grief and early on, it can stretch the time out longer than you want it to. So ask, take good care of yourself, work on that mindset, surround yourself with the community.
Thank you, Donna. I definitely, as an introvert, understand there's a difference between being alone and feeling lonely, and you articulated that well. All right, Miss Tina.
When Susan said profound loneliness, that just struck a chord with me. Remembering the man that I had this covenant relationship with, that he was no longer in this world. And I just felt like nothing was right anymore. It made me look at everything in the world. Sun had the nerve to get up the next day. The people were moving, things were going on, and life was requiring me to make very big decisions at a place and time where I had very little mental capacity. I am one of 5 siblings, and the youngest sibling is my brother, and he showed up the next day at my house because we were in Delaware and had to travel back home. And the ability to not have to try to prove that I could do everything gave me such peace because my brother had been on the American bobsled team, so he had stayed in our house in between training. So he knew where we lived. He knew the church we went to. He knew a lot of people. So I didn't have to do everything. It wasn't all on me. And when my siblings came, they jumped in and just did things I didn't know needed to do. And I'm a bit of a unicorn because 7 years later, my family and friends still show up the very same way. They have um, never abandoned me. If anything, I have gained more friends. But even in all those different things, Mark's presence, not in this world, is a sense of loneliness that cannot be articulated. Um, and that's not something that I ever could have understood because when he passed, it made me think, who were the other widows? Did I show up for them? Did I understand their plight? Was I considerate? And a lot of times I find that people are very upset because their friends or loved ones don't know how to show up for them. But the question I'm always curious about, who did we show up for before our loved one passed? And oftentimes the answer is no one. But we have unrealistic expectations for someone to come in with a magic wand and make it better for us because our loss is so great. But people don't know how. And I'm not quite sure. I think Donna said that we have to train them And when I started telling my friends what I needed, they jumped in. I was still trying to figure it out, but the more I talked about it, the better it became for me. I remember one friend calling me, we were co-workers, and he said, "I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the service. Do you need anything?" And literally just 30 minutes before he called, I was in the backyard trying to rake the leaves in the yard because that was Mark's job. And I know if my neighbors looked out, I looked like I should be on the little yellow bus because I was raking this same little pile. I was crying. It was looked like I just I was like, I can't be out here. I was ready for the leaves to grow and to just pile up, and I didn't care at all. And he said, "I'll come over and rake the leaves." And I was thinking, he doesn't know how big this yard is, but he said, "Yes, so I'm gonna take this." And when he came, he did not complain. He went in that backyard and he raked and put all the leaves and did all of that. And that was me allowing somebody else to take some of this weight. And the more that I gave my friends permission to talk, the more they shared Mark's stories with me. And it made me realize, even though his wife, he is no longer here, but there are other people missing him in a different way. And I really wasn't alone. And that gave me a sense of comfort.
Thank you, Tina. Amy.
Yeah, I did not feel lonely because I had so many children clamoring around me, and all I wanted was to be alone. They were just, my kids' needs were so loud and so in my face. It was a really probably different experience than what many people had. But I definitely experienced that deep, deep sadness of, sorry, my cat is walking right by here. Of having nobody know me. And I remember something happened. I think maybe I was at a doctor's appointment and I was driving home and I thought, who even cares? Like, I don't even know who to call to say, hey, I got a clean bill of health. Hey, I'm good. I thought, well, I could call my daughters. I'm sure they care, but it was just different. And it was that kind of loneliness of just not having, okay, so I might be the first one to get emotional here. Just not having that person who knows me so, so deeply just vanish and just be gone. Even though we had that preparation, even though, it was just, we had 3 years of anticipatory grief. Um, but it still hit really hard. So there were definitely some times in the course of just living life with my children that I really struggled with loneliness. One place in particular was anytime I went to a sports event, a concert at the kids' school, we always sat there together. And we lived in a small community where people knew my story, but they wouldn't necessarily come and sit with me, and that just really hurt, and that was really hard. I think in my own loneliness, I I knew enough. I had been a believer in the Lord for 30 some years, and I knew better than to, turn to some other kind of vice that wouldn't fill my heart. And so I had a all out, just crying fit, snotty nose in the carpet. And I told the Lord, if you don't show up for me, I will die. I cannot do this. This workload is so heavy, so heavy. And he really did. And one thing that I think is a little bit of a benefit when your husband passes away is that no one expects you to do anything. And so my calendar just suddenly got cleared, and I kept it that way. And I began responding to the call of the Holy Spirit to come and sit with the Lord for hours at a time. And it was truly a deepening experience. And I have said this in the past that I would not go back to having my husband alive if I had to give up what I have with the Lord now. And that I realize, and you all realize what a profound statement that is, but it's absolutely true. And I think my understanding of life and the time that which we live and then we go to heaven, and we have so much more coming, that this little teeny tiny time that I have as a widow is going to be so minuscule when we're 10 million years in the future and we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of eternity. The time that I'm living now is so infinitesimally small that when I open my mind to comprehend the magnitude of what eternity is, where my husband is, I'm going there to it changes my loneliness, and it makes me feel purposeful, and it makes me feel like I need to buy up the opportunity that I have while I'm here. And I also did an experience, a very specific thing. I think, I think I came up with 5 emotions that I really get hamstrung with. And one of them is definitely my loneliness. Um, and I came up with an answer. I came up with I in my head I pictured a house, and this is the house that I'm going to run to when this emotion hits. And so when I feel lonely, I'm going to run to this house of gratitude. And so actually on Thanksgiving Day this year was the first time that I went to my husband's grave site. Not the first time that I went, but the first time that the tombstone was up with my name on it next to his. And I thought, on top of just wanting to run to the house of gratitude, it's Thanksgiving Day. So I went with a heart prepared to just worship and be thankful. And I went back and I remembered the days when I longed to be married and I had no idea who I would marry. I really didn't know. And I just thanked God for giving me my husband, for giving us these 24 years of marriage. Um, and it's a heart shift that helps us get through loneliness. It's not that loneliness isn't real, because we all know it is. And it also, there's some practical things. Like for me, I sleep with a bunch of pillows, and I put pillows on my like up against my back, and I snuggle a pillow, and I just like I missed him holding me so much, but it just seemed to be practically helpful to me. And anyway, I could talk too long, so I'll be done.
That's great. Thank you, Amy. Okay, so we're going to take just a couple of minutes here, and I'm just going to ask you all to type in the chat. If you don't want everyone to read, you can also flip your to message to the host or panelists. But I'm just going to ask you to reflect on how you combat loneliness, and if you have taken steps to rebuild your social circle, or if this is something that you still struggle with. So I'm going to give us 2 minutes here. Okay, are you guys ready to draw some more prizes? And then we will talk about a juicy topic. Love after loss always creates a very polarizing response with widows, which is interesting and just fun to talk about. Okay. All right. So we let me share my the famous prize wheel here. We'll get that up and going. Okay, so first thing we're gonna draw for here again is Sue Peters, her 2-book bundle. Let me get my screen adjusted here. Okay, Sue Peters' 2-book bundle is going to go to Anita. Fun fact, I used to work with Anita. I can vouch she's an amazing human being, as are all of you that are here. All right, this is the Hope Speaker $50 merchandise gift card, and that is going to go to Katie. Way to go, Katie. All right, Elijah, Faith, and Fire. The book, I didn't tell you guys, I haven't told you about this one. So the if you've been around me very long, I talk a lot about this daily Bible study book. I think it's a 6-week Bible study book called Elijah, Faith, and Fire by Priscilla Shirer. And you wouldn't think that widowhood would have a lot in common with Elijah and his journey out into the wilderness, but there's a lot of similarities. And this Bible study book wasn't written for widows and it wasn't written for the challenges we have. But what I love about it is that it illustrates what is happening when we're in the in-between. When we're in the in-between of what we knew and the unknown of our future. And how when God is hiding us out in the wilderness, we feel invisible, we feel alone, we feel like nobody sees us. And that's actually very intentional. God is doing work in your heart and in your character, and He's preparing you for that next stage. But it feels like everybody just forgot about us and we're just stuck there. So, the winner of this book, we will send you a copy, but if you're looking for a book, I think it's like 10 minutes a day. I've gone through it 3 times. It's amazing. Definitely order it for yourself, or gift it to a friend. But today's winner for this book is going to be Julie. Okay, Donna's 2-book bundle is going to be next. Yep, Donna's got her books out. Here we go. All about widowhood and all about blended families. And that is going to go to Sally. Congratulations, Sally. Okay, the Brave Widow variety pack, if I could call it that. So a quarterly membership or additional time if you're a current member, or I have a Stanley Cup and I have a hoodie I can send your way. So the winner of the Brave Widow variety pack is Janine. Awesome. Janine was one of my first podcast interviews, like way back in the day. And I think we're going to have her back on because she's come a long way and I've learned a lot about how to actually do a podcast. $50 Amazon gift card is going to go to Jenny. And then our $25 Amazon gift card is going to go to Carol Ashley. Congratulations, Carol. Okay. All right, we're going to flip back over and we are going to move to our love after loss. Now, we have some widows here who have dated, have remarried. We have some that haven't. There is no right or wrong answer. And so in our culture today, we typically view a single person as incomplete, or that something's missing, or there's all the drama around you moved on too soon, not soon enough, whatever it is. So I just, again, threw this topic out to the panelists and said, however you think about love after loss, your experience, what you would want to tell other people, what would your message be? And so this time I will start. How about Rachel?
Thanks, Emily. Real quick, can we get an answer to what was the name of the Elijah book that you had mentioned?
Oh, yeah, it's called Elijah, Faith and Fire by Priscilla Shire. And I'll make sure that all of our books and giveaways and links is in the email tomorrow, so that way people can easily just click on it and get it right on Amazon.
Yeah, thanks. So love after loss. Uh, so much that could be said, I'm sure. You're going to get a lot of wonderful feedback from these ladies. Um, I would say in my journey, this is another chapter of really seeing the Lord's faithfulness to carry me through. I had the four kids, again, three of them that weren't biologically mine, and similar to what Amy and Don we're talking about, lots of kids with a lot of needs, especially a lot of new diagnoses and mental health things in the aftermath of my husband's suicide. So walking through this journey with them, I did not have much time or bandwidth. I was a registered nurse for 9 years. I lost that job and the pandemic and needing to care for the kids. So this whole thing, I came to the point of knowing that I really wanted that at some point, while also struggling with the fact that no one would ever, I mean, it would never be Andre, so I didn't want it. But I did, and so the Lord was so gracious to me. You may laugh at this, but it's really true. I decided that I was going to, if He gave the word, to set up an online dating profile, which I laugh about because back in the day I used to be, I don't know, judgmental toward that. I was like, oh, you meet a person in person and probably at your church and see their life. And that, I mean, that's what I had done with Andre. So I was like, oh, a dating profile. I remember talking with the Lord about it, and I was like, Lord, would you tell me if and when this is the, and he was like I heard him clearly. He was like, yeah, today, go ahead. And I was like, what? Today? Like, is this you talking? Really? I wasn't even thinking, I'm like, I'm kind of busy today. Like, I don't know about this whole thing. So I was on eHarmony for a little bit and I hated it. I was like, this is a joke, this is a game. It can be a struggle. It's not for everybody. You got to be careful, I think, with scams. And again, I'll bring up the vulnerability thing of people watch for widows and they get romantically involved or other things and can steal from them. And you just got to be so careful. But for me, it was like when I even had time, which was like a couple days a week, I would sit down after taking care of all my kids and I'd get on this app and I'd look at my messages and get on someone's profile and it would be really quick. I'd be like, I would know, no, this is a no. And I'd like copy and paste this message of like, well, thanks for your interest. Good luck on your thing. And I'd be on my phone. I'm like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm so ready to be done with this. And it was such a grace how, right before I closed that whole down, I met Mike. And right before that, I have to say, I'd kept everything real localized, right? It was another decision. Like, how could I manage anything outside of my little area and my world? And through prayer, again, you guys, y'all are gonna think I'm crazy. And I was like, Lord, what do you want me to do here with this? And I just had this sense that I was gonna cast a wide net. I was like, I don't need a bunch of men. I'm looking for just the one that you have. If you have him here, I put like the continental US or whatever it was. And so lo and behold, I'm serious. Yeah, you can hopefully I'll make you laugh tonight. I met Mike. He was in Missouri. I'm in Colorado. And he was a fireman out there and single dad and the Lord, we laugh about this now, he and I. It is not without its challenges. I mean, those decisions have affected everything, right? The visiting back and forth in between states. Mike came out here to Colorado a week or two out of every month for many months. He came and stayed with people from our church. He would be here in the morning to help me get the kids off to school, take care of the little ones, the littlest that wasn't even in school, all the way to putting them to bed. We'd have a cup of tea and look at each other and be like, hey, Thanks for coming, all the way from Missouri. I'm Rachel. Who are you? How are you? I get a little time with you. And we got to know each other over time and went back and forth some. And that yeah, God was just so faithful. So faithful. Mike says he was faithful to keep you from closing the door. I would say I was a little skittish with some things that I'd been through with my husband and PTSD things and trust issues from that. So I was definitely flighty. I knew I would have issues, but I didn't know the extent of which that was. And Mike really felt the Lord lead him clearly. After months of dating, he felt the Lord very, very clearly answer him, and he never wavered from that point. And I'm thankful for that. So the Lord is just all up in our story, and we've needed that, and we've needed him to keep going through this because it's been a whole journey and adventure. Ron Deal has some wonderful resources about family blending, dating when you're a single parent or a widowed, and that was a good one we went through together. And also for stepmom, stepdad, blending family right before the wedding. We went through a lot of those books and resources by Ron Deal, and that was helpful. And I will say we also did counseling, which was huge for us. We would not have made this work, probably still be together. So many factors. But I knew something was really special about this one. So from the second week that I knew him, he joined me in my weekly counseling with my counselor, and we'd have done counseling every week, you guys. Since that time, we just went bi-weekly. But yeah, without her, I mean, it's just been a grace to have her because I think there's just some things that without someone else's support and outside perspective, I mean, sometimes we sit down and she'd be like, you know what? You're both still here and you're committed to growing and changing. And that's all you need. Like you're both in it and trying because blending families is just a whole thing of its own that takes time and who are you to me and acknowledging the losses for everybody. It is a lot of redemption, it's a lot of beauty, it's a lot of gain. Love grows, like there's room for everybody, and everybody is also losing in the process. And so having wise counsel and resources have just kept us going and kept us together, and the Lord's faithfulness. So, yeah.
Thank you, Rachel. Tina.
Um, I want to say for me, the first thing was really just trying to understand myself and where I'm going and where things are. And forgive me for all the sniffling. I literally have pneumonia and I didn't want to back out. So I know there's a lot of nose blowing and stuff like that, but I know how important something like this is for everyone, and I wanted to keep that commitment, so I apologize. Um, when my husband passed, I was just trying to grasp my mind around the reality that he was no longer in this world. And so dealing with my therapist, dealing with other mental health professionals, and working on me was the place that I started. The idea of like finding a chapter two was not my initial thought. I think we're thrust into the concept of when do we, how do we, everybody is their own time. I've seen people that dates, months afterwards, or someone that may date 6 years later. I had a conversation with a widower named Fred Colby, Colby, and he gave three things that he thought were pretty good tips to be able to understand when you were ready to date. And he said, can you imagine holding someone else's hand? And that is such an intimate thing. Could you imagine a future with someone else? And could you imagine making love to somebody else? And those three things are really a telltale as far as where you're at mentally and what that looks like. I didn't meet Fred and Colby until later on, but his questions were super helpful. When I did, and what drove me to date, I was with a girl. I was over a friend's house, and she was in her late 40s. And I put a glass down, and she started wiping it away, like underneath it. And every time I did something, I was like, okay, she has been single her whole life. How long, don't judge me, before I'm become the cat lady and I'm gonna have 62 cats in the house because I don't know how to socialize with people anymore because everything is in its Tina place and everything is where it should go. Will I have space to incorporate somebody else into my life? And I literally went in the back room and set up a dating profile. I didn't know how that was going to work, but I was like, we're not going to do the 62 cats. So, but I created accountability because that was one of the things that was so different for me. I think somebody mentioned, maybe it was Amy, she went to the doctor, and who were you going to tell? I was in uncharted territory. My late husband and I had been together for 32 years. We met because we lived down the hall from each other in the military. Dating, yeah, was not something I was up for. And my perspective was so different. There was somebody put in the Q&A some different things. I wanted to try to cover those. If you guys would look at that, she talked about, I really want to know more about moving forward with dating again. I keep going back and forth between wanting to live and love again versus just being miserable and missing my husband. Me dating, getting married does not change me missing my late husband. The duality of those exists. For me, and I still carry my late husband's last name because I did not want a world to exist where my children didn't have a parent with the same last name. Um, Online dating, I would highly recommend using a Google Voice phone number. Do not use your real phone number. Your phone number is connected to your credit report. People can research and find things about you by your phone number. Um, if you're going to meet somebody, meet them in a public place. Let other people know who you're meeting up with. And if you're ashamed to tell your family and friends you don't have one soul that you want to tell what you're doing, you may not be ready. If you don't have somebody you can confide in and let them know what's going on. I allow my siblings, I'm one of five. I had two of my sisters and some girlfriends check the different things that I was saying yes to, or when I was creating the profile, because I was in uncharted territory. I was 51 years old. That was not the jam that I was expecting to be in at 51. And I remember this one guy that I was dating. He lived in Richmond, and I was planning to move to Virginia. And we went on a group date with some of my friends, and they were like, no, 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 no. And they were right. They were all right. They were texting my brother, sending pictures when I found out about them. I was like, y'all not even my friends. You are not here for me. But they were spot on. They were spot on. And so I said long distance wasn't going to be a thing. I waited till I came here to Virginia. And there was a little quiz that I took, try to identify which dating app worked best for you. And there's Bumble, the woman gets to pick. There's a lot of different things out there, but don't do it in a vacuum. And somebody talked about scammers. If someone tells you, don't tell anybody we're talking, red flag, leave them alone. Don't mess with that because this should be public knowledge. Somebody that does not want to meet up in person, probably someplace else, because the whole idea is for us to meet up. So when I did meet my chapter two, we had been talking for about 3 or 4 days. And at this point, I was like, okay, can we meet up for coffee? And people can put about Christian and doing all the other stuff on there. They use it as taglines. You don't know who somebody is until you know their heart, until you're in their presence and have a sense. So I said it to say, I was like, this is not some booty call. We are meeting up in a coffee shop. I want to know that I have chemistry. I want you to be the person that you present. And he did. And on the second day, we talked about what was not going to happen in this dating experience and being very clear about that. And if you're not comfortable enough with articulating what your exact needs and wants are, then I encourage you to talk to a friend or somebody else, because we are past the date and time where someone else is going to lead the whole relationship for you and leave your needs and wants unfulfilled. For 3 years, Fred woke up every day to 6 to 7 different questions from me. And I used this book called Love Starter because one of my concerns was, how am I going to even care to think about another person after being with my husband for 32 years? And I struggled with that. It was like, God, how's my heart? We had 2 children together. We went through a miscarriage, breast cancer, 32 years. How does someone else jump into that space? And God is amazing. from that very first date that I met Fred, it felt like home. I remember driving um back to my place, the condo I was renting, and telling my sister, like, I think I don't know. Like, there was no romance in me. Let me be very organic. I was dusty. There was no widow fire. There was nothing I was struggling against. There was no passion burning. There was nothing. Like, I thought I should just become a nun because it was over. And I met him and I was like, oh, okay, we are alive. Like, the passion just boiled up. I was like, oh, okay, we gonna have to stand our ground over here to what we said we were gonna do. But that instant conversation, literally 5 years later, still exists today. It is so easy being with him. And I know only God could have done that because he had been married before and had been married twice. And I had a lot of questions about that. And when we did the premarital counseling, our pastors, he sat down, he said, there's normally going to be 6 sessions. And I was like, I'm here for it. And everything he asked us on that first session, he was like, you guys have really been doing work. I was like, I am too old to be playing out here. Like, I have a lot of questions to ask and different things like that to know. So I did that work. And if he didn't want to answer the questions and didn't work, I much rather to have lived my life single than to be so lonely that I had a bad marriage after having a good marriage because I wasn't decisive. And so that was a decision that I had made. Um, I found out that Fred's middle name is my late husband's first name. Blew my mind. That he has some similar hobbies. One of the other things that people talk about, this word soulmate. When my husband passed, my daughter and I, we were at a hotel because we were in Delaware, and she came to me and said, was Dad your soulmate? Well, he's the love of your life. And she wanted this Disney version of an answer, but I knew I had to give her the truth. I said, I am the love of my own life. I love your dad immensely. But if he was the love of my life and if he was my soulmate and he is no longer in this world, what is left for me to live off of? It has to be my relationship with myself or my relationship with God that will tether me to continue living. And so the word soulmate doesn't resonate with me. Faithful to my husband, till death do us part. I did all those things. I was not looking for a replacement of him. My late husband, as you can see, is a Caucasian guy, same height as me. I went so far to say I'm not even going to date white guys. I don't want anything to look like that I am trying to replace him. I was going totally different because it needed to be fair to somebody else. In the last name, I was at work and one of my coworkers said, when are you going to change your last name? And I was like, what? Like, that never entered my mind. And I was like, this could be a deal breaker because I'm not going to do that. And we were out to eat a few weeks before the wedding. And I asked him, what did he think about last names? And he said, you changing your name? And he said, your children would not have a parent with the same last name. And I was like, this man 100% gets me. But then he was rude and said, you're kind of old to be changing your name. That would be complicated. I was like, sir, no one asked you to say that. No one asked you at all. So those are some of and then shameless plug, every Friday on YouTube, I provide dating tips because this is a difficult journey. And one of the things that I've seen widows do a lot, we wifey up too quickly because we're used to being a wife and we don't know how to be a girlfriend and give somebody a space that they haven't earned yet. Thank you.
Tina, you just delivered a sermon in like under 10 minutes. I feel like we got a whole master class just on dating. That was amazing.
We can
And
do that if you want. I'm here for it.
yeah. You guys give Tina so much love in the chat because she, as she shared, has been diagnosed with pneumonia. And she said, I was in the service. I'm a tough cookie. I'm here for it. And I was like, all right, let's go. Okay. Donna, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I gotta say, Tina, that was fantastic. And I just added to the chat the last name thing. Yeah, it would never even occur to me to lose Kendrick. That's my late husband's last name. And now when mail comes and my new husband's first name and the last name Kendrick, it's fantastic. We make a little name tag for it. So it's just, he's a member of the family now, he officially. But so much of what everyone shared has resonated. I lost my husband to suicide. And so there was a lot that I had to unpack before I put myself out there in the dating world because there was that little voice, right? You know what you're thinking here, and you hear that voice in the back of your head constantly talking to you, was always telling me that, I wasn't worth staying alive for. Right. And wow, like how do you present yourself out there? So yeah, you get the therapy, you get the help, to be able to put your best foot forward. I think I jumped into the dating world before I was ready because I wanted to feel needed. I wanted to feel like I could fix somebody else, right? Like maybe I didn't do a good job fixing the first one. That's not it. That's not it at all. And so really aligning yourself with the therapist that can help you, the friends that can help you, was a big part of the next step. So this is called Brave Widow. I could have my own podcast called Stubborn Widow because once I finally realized that I was just so good on my own, dating, like I was like, I don't think I could cooperate with anyone. I really like it my way. I used to make decisions in the middle of the house, being like, anyone else disagree? Oh, no, my way. And it was a great feeling. But I actually dated on the website on the sites and had some two really good relationships that lasted a little while, but they weren't perfect fits. And how I actually met my current husband, Jim, was he was a contractor in my house. The kids and I had moved after my husband had passed to get a house that was just our own. He had taken his life in our house. It was just too much for my kids. And he was just helping me kind of quote unquote flip the house, right? Getting it from 1950s to 1990s. We weren't even trying for the 2000s then. The budget was short. But like, and he was married at that time, right? And I used to babysit his kids so that he could get work done on the house, like a little barter system that way. And there was nothing there romantically. But what he was watching is how I parented. What he was watching is how I involved my community in our home, doing pierogi parties and helping other widows come over. What he was watching is how sometimes I did look lonely, right? And how I was studying and balancing too much with going to work and trying to work a career, and he saw I was exhausted. So he would always just check in on me, right? And always keeping that community close. Many years later, his marriage had ended in divorce, and we just reconnected. I had actually sent him a copy of the picture of the door of my house, which I had painted black because he told me I made the wrong decision on the color of the door. And so years later, randomly realized I still had his number in my phone, sent him a picture of the door and said, "You're right, it looks better when it matches the shutters." That was it. The floodgates opened. But where did we have our hardest hard times? Is the fact that I didn't divorce. I lost my husband because he passed. He divorced. So in his mind, he chose to move that relationship, and I was still in love with my late husband. He had a really hard time with that, with making sure I had enough space to love somebody else, to love someone differently. Again, the power of spirituality, the power of a really good counselor, the power of tapping, and the power of being earnest, right? Getting that stubborn widow and realizing that that was part of what I was pushing off, right? That I could do it on my own, that I was okay on my own. And I needed to break down those barriers a little bit and let myself be loved, right? And be vulnerable to it. So don't be scared, right? Be safe. I love the little tips that Tina put in there. Like we did a Life 360. My late husband was Homeland Security. There were some deep dives in anyone I was going on a date with. Like, let's be real. I think I was the one looking at the telephone number, the credit report. Like it's all about finances. But those are really things that I really had to make sure that I was allowing is for me to break down the walls a little bit, that I didn't have to be strong. I could allow more love in, and it could be different. And my last piece of advice, um, besides just being authentic to who you are, because you never know when you're going to be bumping into that person. Never thought the man doing drywall in my house would be my husband 8 years later. Like, never, ever thought that. But dating profile saying a man good with power tools, very nice. Feel free to use that one. Very handy, very affordable. But my last like point to just really, really remember is the fact that you can keep the story alive of the person who passed, and you can share that story with your new relationship. We talk openly because if you heard me share my stepkids, their mom passed. I think my stepkids know my husband, late husband, almost as well as they know their own dad, because we are constantly keeping their stories alive. Um, that's important, right? What would your dad have done of this? What did your dad look like when he was 16? We asked the same thing of my stepkid's mom now. I knew her in high school, right? So what I remember your mom at prom. Like these are those things that we have to keep the story alive and not to be shy to share that. So those are my little wisdoms.
I love that. Thank you so much, Donna. All right, Amy, it's to you.
Yeah, so I don't know. Am I the only widow here that's not remarried? No, I'm not. Okay, Susan is not. I it's interesting. I think my husband, because he knew he was dying, he used to pray with me for my second husband. And I was like, cut it out. It was just a little too much. But he actually talked to each of our kids one on one and said, hey, when the Lord brings somebody else for mom, I'm okay with it. And I bless it. And so it's interesting what that did to my subconscious. Um, at the 6 month mark, I was like, well, where is he? Where is this guy? Because my life was really, really hard. And at the 1 year mark, I fully expected that I was going to live 1 year of widowhood. Now, I think if somebody asked me, I probably wouldn't have told them this, but I really believed in my head that somebody was coming for me and they were going to save me out of this life. They were going to fill Brian's spot. I knew he wouldn't be like Brian, but at least he was going to share this load, help me parent, help me do all this stuff. And when I wasn't even dating anyone at 1 year, it was really disappointing. That was really, really hard for me. I don't think I would have been ready to put myself, to love another person, I was just so needy. Like, I remember fighting the urge to put a post on Facebook. Will somebody please marry me? I didn't do it, but man, I wanted to. I just wanted somebody in here to help me. And it was not anything about, I want to love another person. It was, I'm drowning here. So at the 18-month mark, I had that same shock. At the 2 year mark, I had that same, where is he? Um, and I just passed 3.5 years, and it was the first time that I hadn't thought about it. And I went, oh, I must be getting, I must be growing. I must be shifting and changing. So I am not, I just actually moved. I picked up my house, sold a bunch of stuff, sold a car, sold tons of our life, and moved with 6 of my 10 kids, 5 states away. And I have been very grateful that I didn't move for a relationship. So I am totally free. I have no dates in mind. I really wouldn't mind it. But I will say that I've made some choices to not watch romantic movies, not read romantic books, just because it puts me in a wrong spot. Um, but I'm actually really okay being single. I would love to love someone, but I don't know that I could fit it into my life. My life's really busy right now, and I'm really, really satisfied in the Lord, and I'm really fulfilled in the work that I'm doing, and I'm okay being single. And that's not something I ever thought I would say. So,
Mm, Thank you, Amy. All right, Sue, bring us home. Love after loss.
All right. Well, I have not dated anybody and have had no interest to do that because I got married when I was 20 years old. I moved right from my parents' house into my apartment with John, and we spent, 34 years together before he died. So he was my best friend. We did everything. We had plans. We've got our kids. And I never really like lived. I didn't go to college. I didn't, do anything that was on my own. And so I finally started experiencing life as an independent person and making my own choices. When I went on my heart honeymoon, it was the scariest moment of my life because I had never even gone on a trip by myself. And it showed me that I could. And I got super excited. So after that, I've been traveling. I went to Sedona, I went to Denver, I went to Reno. I went to my daughter lives in Virginia, and I would go to her place myself. But then this year I drove and met my publisher who lived in North Carolina, just randomly took a trip and said, "Hey, you want me to come by and we can meet in person?" And so I'm starting to realize that I can live a life and experience things in a new way and make my own choices. And I know John, for me, is with me and is kind of traveling with me in that way. So for me, our relationship has just changed. It's a different type of relationship. And for now, that's good for me. If somebody comes along and I meet somebody, that might change. But right now, I'm very comfortable where I'm at and just kind of see where life takes me.
Thank you, Sue. I appreciate everybody sharing so openly, and I think it's really important for our audience to see just the wide variety of people we have on this panel, the different experiences and viewpoints people have, and how hopefully they resonate with at least one person's story. There's no right exact path when it comes to this topic, so thank you all. And now we're just going to take 2 minutes and allow you to reflect on how you are thinking about love after loss. And if there's anything that was shared today that resonates with you, I will get us some music going and we'll give you 2 minutes. Okay, so we are here down to our last 15 minutes. How is this possible? The time has gone by so incredibly fast. And so I have to give it up to these panelists because they knew this next section would be answering the toughest questions you could throw their way, the things that you really desperately wanted to hear them talk about. So I'm going to draw for our next set of giveaways, but as I'm doing that, this is really the perfect time for you to click on that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and type in any questions you have or any requests about topics that you would like to hear more about. Okay. So I will flip us over back to our prize wheel. And we are going to start again with Sue's 2-book bundle. Sue's got her books there. She's working on a third. I don't know if she mentioned that. Amazing. Okay. Our winner is going to be Joy Brooks. Congratulations, Joy. All right, then we have our $50 gift card to the Hope Speaker merch store. And our winner for that prize is going to be Jennifer. Congrats, Jennifer. Okay, we've got another Elijah Faith and Fire book to give away here. And the winner of this book is going to be Melissa. This is a tricky prize wheel. I'm never quite sure where it's going to land. Okay, Donna's 2-book bundle. This is going to go to Maggie. Congrats, Maggie. All right, Brave Widow membership or swag. This is going to be awarded to Dolores. Congratulations, Dolores. $50 Amazon gift card. Get your last minute Christmas items. That is going to go to Allison. That was one great thing about living in Ohio was I could get same-day Amazon delivery, which is craziness. All right, $25 Amazon gift card. That is going to go to Gloria. Awesome. All right, I'm going to keep going. We've got 13 more. I'm going to draw like 5 more, okay? We're back to Sue's 2-book bundle again. Sue, I'm loving the hand motions. That's amazing. Okay, Sue's bundle is going to Dawn. Awesome. Okay, Hope Speaker merch, $50 gift card. That is going to go to Barbara. Okay, Elijah Faith and Fire. Patty. Donna's book bundle. Natalie Clark. I just got to talk to you the other day. All right, Brave Widow membership or swag. That is going to go to Laura Cook. All right, I'm just going to do the next Amazon gift card just to close out this portion here. All right, $50 Amazon gift card. That is going to go to Stacy. Awesome. $25 Amazon gift card. And that will go to please don't murder me. Jakisha, you'll have to tell me how to say your name. I'm sure my Arkansas accent has probably butchered it, but please know that I love you, and if I knew how to say it right, I would. Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna check the Q&A box. I know we have a question. Just gonna check here. I think that we've covered this one. How do you know when you're ready? So I'll add something here, and then in our last 10 minutes, we have five panelists. I'll give them 2 minutes to share their last words of wisdom that they would like to leave you with, and then we'll draw for our last set of prizes here. So, how do you know? Make sure I'm reading this right. How do you know when you are ready as far as dating? I uh there's no perfect you're absolutely ready. Just gonna tag on to this topic here. But what I tend to tell people is to look at why you're interested in dating. I made a lot of mistakes with, just feeling lonely or wanting someone to do things with or feeling like my life was on a hold until I figured out well, I can't draw up house plans. What if that person doesn't like these house plans? What if they don't want to live here? What if they don't want to do these things? And I put a lot of my life on hold. And so, um, I would recommend that you bring yourself to a place and have the mindset that you are loving your life again. You're starting to enjoy life. You're starting to develop dreams and hopes for the future, and that your goal is to find somebody to just share that experience with, to create memories with, and that it's not looking for someone out of desperation and loneliness or to fill a void that you have or power tools that you need, Donna. But to also have someone where you're like, yeah, if I had someone to share life with, that would be icing on the cake, but it's the icing on the cake. So, all right, I will let each of our panelists share for just a couple minutes. Um, how do you get proper sleep? Oh, that's a question that we have in here. So, do a couple of you want to share any tips on getting proper sleep?
I'll just share one thing. When John got sick, it was the day of our son's wedding. He was wearing this brand new undershirt, this nice white clean undershirt. And when I had to go back to the hotel after the wedding and he wasn't there, that's when I first broke down. And I just like held his shirt. Well, then I just like decided to keep it. And so I've been using it ever since as my blankie kind of. And it's really helped me because it's like I don't wear it. I like just put it up on my chest and I just hold it, or I keep it on the pillow, or I just hold on to it. And that really has made a big difference for me even now.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Rachel, were
I'll
you going to
I'll throw
add?
something out there. Yeah. Um, Both in the realm of after my husband passed away by suicide, we really did have all sorts of things. Again, I love the Lord, and we had spiritual warfare things. I mean, like he passed away and we had night terrors, and I had these chronic sinus infections, and I had a little one develop a dissociative disorder who was up 12 to 20 times a night, and it was unbelievable. And I would
If
say, I keep hammering on the Lord's faithfulness. I had a moment similar to what one of the other panelists mentioned, even around, yeah, the needs and the sleep. And I was like, Lord, I cannot do this. Like, what do I do? No one can replace him. No one can be here in the night with all of these kids and all of these needs. But I can't keep doing this. So, like, you better do something about it. And like, I had a sister in the Lord that I knew of, not real close with, get my number and call me and say, oh, sorry if this sounds weird, but I felt like the Lord told me that I was supposed to call you and see if I could stay overnight at your house and pray over your kids with you. Like there might be some things going on. And I was like, I know he's talking to you and I know he's listening to me. And um, so even prayer became really, really big and important over me and my kids. But even from the health side of things, there can be a lot of things that are helpful. They have teas and oils with vetiver in them that can be helpful. If you're really struggling, um, people will go to melatonin. They haven't really researched the long-term effects of being on that for prolonged periods of time. There's some evidence that it may cause you to make less of your own. So I would suggest that if it's a real struggle, you might want to talk with a doctor about it and try some other things if you may need a prescription or something, even for a season. And speaking of being asleep, but my overall being and struggling with suicide, I was like refusing to do anything for a long time. I was like, I'm not going on antidepressants. I will not. Like, and I don't know why I had that bias. I'm a nurse. But like I had to humble myself, and even that, like taking something for a period of time, like that for me helped save my life. Like I felt a physical load removed, and I was like, and it was just for a season. But whatever you need to do for a season to take care of yourself, like it's so worth it. Yeah, whatever you need, asking for people to be there to pray with you, seeking out medical help if needed, being in a routine, trying diffusers and oils and other supplements and things that can be helpful. I slept with a heating pad. I would get so cold and the bed would be so dark and lonely and cold, and I'd plug in a heating pad and have it, and that really helped. So I hope you get some relief.
Thank you for sharing that. And again, just being so open about what has been really helpful. Okay, final words, and then we'll draw our last set of giveaways. Amy, do you mind to go first?
Yeah. I just about the sleep thing. Sleep has been an issue for me for like 15 years or more, and it's really been tough. Um, I will say, I know I'm supposed to wrap up, overall, but sleep is such a big thing for me. I have found this little secret of a 22-minute nap, and I know that sounds crazy, but I actually the last couple of weeks I haven't been doing it. I've been making myself stay up. Um, but I have no problem falling asleep at night, which used to be an issue. But I wake up, and I don't know if it's my age or what, but 22 minutes seems to be like when I'm really at that lull in the day. I set a timer for 22 minutes. By the time I actually fall asleep, 22 minutes that alarm goes off, and it refreshes me. It's like I don't go deep enough. But lately I've tried a new thing where I work out in that slump instead of trying the nap. And I have yet to sleep through the night. So I'm getting like 5 hours of sleep at night and getting up. So, um, but I think, just to wrap up, it's a real honor to be here. And I take it as a great honor that I am Brian's widow. No one else in the world gets to be her. That's my privilege. Um, I I'm okay, not being married again. I think I would love it. I really think I would. I needed to get through some of that like desperation, like just help me. I finally made peace with hiring a handyman. Um, but I think the widowhood journey does not have to be um, just a sad desperation thing. I think there's something that happens I think human beings are so able to adjust. And I think about how do I want my life to look? Do I want, especially in front of my kids, do I want my kids to see that I was so crushed by the loss of dad that I can't go on? I had always heard of people who died of a broken heart, and I used to think I never want to be that person. I want to be so in love with the Lord that I'm still carried by Him. So I have just I all of my joy comes from God and my relationship and rooting myself in Him. Um, I couldn't have made it this far without Him. So um, but I have just found great joy in these days. I mean, I would love to go back and revisit some of our life where we lived overseas. Those were some of my very favorite times. We were so young and I was so skinny and we were so happy. And so it was just so great. But I'm at peace with where I am. I don't like it, but I'm at peace. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And thank you, Amy, for being here tonight.
Thanks for asking me.
Yeah. All right, Donna, final words of wisdom.
Unmuted now. Don't be afraid to share your story. My Greg suffered from depression, took his life, and we had kept it very quiet. So when he took his life, no one knew the why. And I kept it quiet and I kept the secret within. And it wasn't a bad thing. We were just private about it. But when time went on and I started to share my story, is how the support built, and it's how I created it, an environment that other people could share. So don't be afraid to do that. It might take time, but that's the authentic nature of who you are, and that's how the healing starts.
Beautifully said. Thank you. All right, Rachel.
Oh, I get another little window. Yeah, I was gonna say, um, trust the Lord's faithfulness to lead you in all of these things. I have seen, like, how are my kids going to respond to someone, and having things start off really rough to like seeing the beautiful things that these kids are doing blending together, and from having the fear of like is it taking from them if I'm with someone else, and then hearing from a stage these kids of a widowed parent sharing that they felt they missed out, maybe not having a new person enter their life. There's so many fears and opinions and things, potentials that what could this or this, is this better, is that? And it's like he's gonna be so faithful to you in your journey and your story and what it's gonna look like. And someone said that to me, and that stuck with me just right after Andre died. And he looked at me in the face and he said, Rachel, you are going to know the faithfulness of the Lord. And that was like all he could say. And I have held to that. It's been so true in all of our questions and all of our struggles that come up. Um, it may not look like anything you've heard or what other people are doing or saying, but like Holy Spirit can lead you in what He has for you. And we did not die when our husbands died. It's like coming out like Lazarus did, and we have to take the grave clothes off. And we're still living. There's still a story ahead of us. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thankful to be with each one of you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Awesome. Amy.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to this question that Shannon has posed about do we ever get stuck on the question of why? And I, so we buried our son, and actually it'll be 18 years this year. And one of the things that has become a takeaway for me that I just want to pass on to you is I don't think we'll ever answer, we will never comprehend the why. I have stopped asking why because I know that I can't comprehend why, let alone the fact that I'm probably not going to be told why. Maybe, but I probably won't be able to like comprehend it. My brain is too small. So the question that I have been praying instead is, and I just think this is such a great takeaway. Lord, what do you want me to know right now? What do you want me to know right now? And I think it's so great because it's such a bite-sized thing, and he will answer it because if he has something that he wants you to know right now, he's going to tell you. And so the big question why is so huge, and it can just I think it can drive us nuts, and never you can never come to a place of peace. But I think asking that question, Lord, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to know right now? Is just a something you can handle. Um, and something I think he is faithful to answer.
Mm, thank you, Amy. That was really well stated. All right, Tina, any last words of wisdom, encouragement, or thoughts that you have?
Two things came to mind for me. One, we have so much to learn about our Creator and who God is and where we are in this life. And I found the best thing is to be honest with God about my feelings in this process because He already knows. So I don't need to be trying to play the shell game with a cup or doing something. And He's clearly waiting for me just to give it to Him. And the first time I did that, um, There was the first time nobody was at the house. There had been people at the house, my brother for 2 weeks and a first cousin for 2 weeks. And the first time Catherine and I were alone in the house. And I remember looking out into the backyard and seeing the stuffed deer that Mark used to use as a hunting practice with his bow. And I was like, he's dead. This really happened. And I could hear God saying, the plans that I have for you are good. And I was like, whoa, wait, I don't even know how you figured that out. I literally just had my uterus emergency hysterectomy because it was about to turn into uterine cancer and everything else. And God showed me 20 things that He had prepared for Mark's passing. And we were together that weekend. I was supposed to have a work trip, and I heard God say, cancel that and be with your husband. That was his moment to leave this world. And by me choosing to listen to God, I was in Mark's presence. He could have died in the 1 bedroom apartment we had for him in Virginia because we were trying to relocate there. And sometimes we only have one chance to move when God unctions us. And I encourage you to take that leap, to take that experience and hear what God is showing you in this process. For most of us, the worst thing that could have happened has already happened, and our journey is still continuing. Then live it and enjoy it. And finding the brave widow and finding your community is a huge component of knowing that you are not alone and you are in kindred with other people of faith, other people who have traveled this journey. Not that you're going to repeat somebody else's, but you know that other people are having similar experience. I just encourage you to stay connected to the Brave Widow and the community that's being built here and to just keep being encouraged. And God has a purpose for your existence. If When God told me that 7 years ago, I would have never thought that I would be where I'm at now. And I'm sure if we had an opportunity to hear from each of the people on the panel and ask them what they would have told themselves the week their spouse passed versus where they're at now, it would be an amazingly different story. Thank you
Yes.
for allowing me to be here.
Yes, thank you, Tina. All right, Sue.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity, Emily. And I'm so glad to have this chance to share with everybody. And my last words, I really want to say a few things. One, that make sure you live in gratitude for all that was. Whatever you had before, there's so many blessings that were before all of this happened. But then don't forget that now, live in the now. This is important. We know that life can go like that. It's gone. Love right now, love yourself right now, love those around you right now. That is so important. And then also look forward with anticipation to what's next. There's so many possibilities ahead of us, just like what Tina just said. We don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now. So look forward to what's next. It's kind of like Christmas is coming and we get a present. We don't know what we're going to be unwrapping. And so just find that possibility as your next step to look forward and take that step and see what's next. I haven't been disappointed by any steps I've taken forward, no matter how small they are.
Thank you, Sue. And I'll just add for people that are wrestling with faith or feeling like their relationship with God is a little bit different. I had somebody say to me, it's like, I've always felt like God is trustworthy, but now sometimes I'm like, but is he? Because he let this happen. And it's just these little fleeting moments of doubt. And so I would just encourage you to have in the time of your prayer, you don't have to pretend that those questions aren't there, that those feelings aren't there. But you can have that very open dialogue where I would pray and I would say, God, I hate this. I don't like this. I don't understand it. I wouldn't have chosen it. I just feel very weird and very separated right now. And I need you to pull my heart closer to you because I can't do it on my own. And I would just have these very open and honest prayers. And I encourage you to do the same. You're not hiding anything from him. There's not some magical phrase or word you're going to say that's just going to banish you forever. And so be honest in how you're seeking out that closeness and what you want in your faith, because it is normal to wonder why at times does God intervene for some and not for others. and we can't really understand that, but that doesn't mean that we don't still wish that we knew that we had the answer, and that's perfectly okay. Okay, I'm going to draw for our last set of giveaways, and you're going to get tomorrow the email with the links and contact information for all the panelists here. Please show them some love in the chat. They all have been very generous in donating their time and donating hours and resources and things so that you guys could have a meaningful event tonight. And I know I'm very grateful for them in doing that. So let me. Okay, we have Sue Peters' book bundle to draw for, and that lucky winner is going to be Nicole Avery. All right, Grief Recovery Method Handbook. And if you have not gone through the method or you haven't gone through the book, I highly recommend that. Our winner for that is going to be Karen Martin. Donna Kendrick's book bundle. Elton Skinner. All right, Elton. Okay, Brave Widow membership or swag option here. Keisha. Keisha, I hope you are on this panel next year. You also have an amazing story that people deserve to hear. All right, $50 Amazon gift card. Is going to be Lynn Burt. And our last one, we're going to do a $100 Amazon gift card. So let's draw for that here. And the winner of our $100 Amazon gift card is going to be Salima. Congratulations to all of our winners, and thank you to everyone who came and joined us tonight. I'm going to say a prayer to close us out, and if you had to drop or come and go, there will be a replay. We'll send that out, so don't worry, you'll have access to all of that. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you again for the opportunity to be together, to meet together, and to hear the just very open and honest stories of other widows that were brave enough to be here, to be on camera, to speak in front of people they don't know, and to just be very real about their journey, their challenges, and what they have found in their faith and as an inspiration to them. We pray that your walk closely with everyone who's here. We'll see this in the future. And we know that the holidays are sometimes the most difficult and trying times for widows, but we want them to know that they're not alone, they're not forgotten, and that every day going forward is going to be a little bit brighter. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you, all you beautiful, brave, stubborn widows. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Love, love, love. Bye bye.